This video is brought to you by Story Genie, a learning platform that explores India through her stories.
These are the world's largest silver artifacts, the famous Jaipur Vats. And this is the Cellular Jail in Andaman. Can you spot a connection? Today, these huge jars sit gleaming quietly in the City Palace in Jaipur. But in 1901, they travelled halfway across the globe and hobnobbed with the rich and powerful of the time. And they have quite a story to tell.
In the early 1900s, very few Indians travelled overseas. It was expensive and it came with a big social risk. You see, back then there was a taboo that if a Hindu sailed on the seas, he would lose his caste. In many parts of India, anyone who travelled the oceans was disowned by his community. In fact, many a time, if at all a man sailed, his last rites would be performed even before he boarded the ship. And once he returned, he had no wife, no family, no nothing. This taboo was called Kalapani. We don't exactly know when and how this taboo originated. But it was because of Kalapani that many Indians were petrified of sea travel. But that said, there were times when many Indians, at least from some parts of the country, were quite comfortable zipping across the oceans for trade. But this was more an exception than the rule.
In 1901, Queen Victoria, the Queen of Great Britain, died. King Edward VII was made King of England and Emperor of India. He invited some Indian maharajas to his coronation. One of these invitees was Maharaja Savai Madho Singh II, the King of Jaipur. The Maharaja was delighted by this invitation, but he faced a terrible dilemma. As an orthodox Hindu, he was prohibited from travelling overseas, and as the king, he was the defender of the faith in his kingdom. Could he be seen breaking the very laws he had sworn to protect? And then there were the royal priests who declared that the Maharaja would invite divine wrath if he dared travel overseas. And yet, this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. How could he decline the invitation of the Emperor of India himself?
So the Maharaja assembled all his religious scholars and asked for a solution. The scholars debated the issue and came up with a plan. It was decided that the king should not travel alone. The family deity would travel along with him. Accordingly, the deity was ceremoniously lodged in the largest suite of the ship. The king himself took the second largest suite. Another large suite was reserved for the royal priest. He had to go along to perform the daily rituals for the deity. The idea was to make the whole setup seem close to life in Jaipur. And just to further that illusion, soil from the city of Jaipur was spread thickly under the idol and under the king's bed, just to make it seem like neither of them had ever left their motherland. The priest also ordered that the ship used for the journey should very strictly be a pure ship, meaning one that had never had beef served or cooked on it before. That was easily managed. The royal office simply asked the travel agent Thomas Cook to find a brand new ship. Let's just say it did not come cheap.
There was one more condition. The priests insisted that during the journey, which would take about 3 months, the Maharaja was to drink water only from the river Ganga. Luckily for them, they discovered 3 huge silver vats lying around in the palace treasury. Nobody remembered why they had been made, but they fit the bill perfectly. They filled each vat with over 4,000 litres of Ganga water and loaded them onto the ship.
In 1902, the Maharaja set sail on his purified ship, with 132 servants, 600 pieces of luggage, and King Edward's coronation gift, a glittering ceremonial sword. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. The ship was caught in a violent storm near Aden in the Red Sea. The priest decided that the only way to appease the gods was to throw one of the silver vats overboard. It worked. The Maharaja reached London safely and attended the coronation. King Edward even visited the Maharaja on his ship. The trip was a great success. The 2 remaining vats are now in the Jaipur Palace Museum. Each of them weighs a whopping 345 kilos and they are mentioned in the Guinness Book of Records as the world's largest silver artifacts.
Now, the idea of traveling overseas with Ganga water was used at other times too. During the First World War, it was this idea that inspired the British and moved 1 million men. You see, the British had a huge army of trained soldiers in India, but they faced an unexpected challenge when they had to move these men to battlefronts abroad. The Indian soldiers refused to sail overseas. So, the British simply loaded huge containers of Ganga water onto their ships, packed in the Indian soldiers, and off they sailed around the globe. Over 1 million Indian soldiers travelled abroad and fought valiantly for the British in the First World War. This idea was also used again in the coolie trade to transport cheap Indian labour to South Africa, Mauritius, and other places.
And what about this jail? This infamous cellular jail in Andaman was also called Kalapani. In the early 1900s, this jail was used by the British to put away their most vocal political opponents. You had to cross an ocean to get to Andaman. So being imprisoned here meant not just jail time and torture, but something much worse: a loss of caste, a banishment from one's own community. And that, to many, was a terrible, terrible punishment. This video is brought to you by Story Genie, a learning platform that showcases the marvelous stories that make India, stories of its people, places, culture, and history.
Did you like this story? We have many more to tell, and we'd love to share them with you. Do subscribe to our channel, and we will keep you posted about all the exciting videos we release.